All right, welcome back. I'm so excited, to have Kim Sport here on the show tonight. She is a 3-time cancer survivor. So before we get we talk about your, your activism with Breastoration, let's talk about you and your journey through cancer and with you and obviously in your family as well.
Okay, well, interestingly, I don't have a family history of cancer, and I came to understand that my cancer emanates from a treatment that I had when I was 6 months old, when doctors thought that children that had an enlarged thymus gland were susceptible to sudden infant death syndrome and other respiratory problems, particularly if they went under anesthesia. One physician decided that the way to shrink this thymus gland was to irradiate the children. And from 1940 to 1960, tens and thousands of people were irradiated. Children were irradiated. I was one of those in 1956. And we found out later on, number one, there wasn't any such thing as an enlarged thymus gland. What they were looking at on x-rays was totally normal. And also that people that had these radiation treatments were highly susceptible to upper body cancers, particularly thyroid cancer and breast cancer. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2001, the first time, and I underwent a lumpectomy, chemotherapy, and radiation, and 5 years of hormone therapy. That's not fun, kind of going into menopause at a very young age. And then I was fine for 7 years and discovered a new primary cancer in the same breast. Because I had received my lifetime dosage of radiation on the breast with the first cancer, I had to have a mastectomy, and I opted to have a bilateral mastectomy and immediate reconstruction here in New Orleans. I think the first thing you think when you have a diagnosis of breast cancer is that you're going to lose your breast. I was just shocked the second time because I just thought I did everything. I felt like my body betrayed me the second time, and knowing I had to go through the mastectomy was a very traumatic experience. On the other hand, I had been involved in the breast cancer community as an activist for some time, so I was very aware that you could have immediate reconstruction, and I was also aware that you could probably come out looking maybe better than you did before. However, you would lose the normal function of the breast. You can't breastfeed a child. You don't have sensation in your breast anymore. But physically, I would look absolutely normal. Breastoration really came about between myself and some other breast cancer survivors and my physicians. They were seeing so many women who had never been told once they received their mastectomy that they could have reconstruction, or that reconstruction was an insured option for them. It's such a serious problem that 70% of all women who are diagnosed with breast cancer are not told that breast reconstruction is a surgical insured option for them.
Right.
Actually, the breast cancer survivors formed Breastoration to educate women about all of their options once they receive a diagnosis of breast cancer, and also to help women who have inadequate funding for the surgery to obtain those surgeries anywhere in the greater New Orleans region.
How do we keep the funds coming in? How can people support your cause to make sure that we have the funds to help as many women as possible?
We have a website, breastoration.org. Our fund is currently administered by CAGNO, the Cancer Association of Greater New Orleans, so you can go to cagno.org. And I think the main way that people can help is to make sure that if someone that you love is diagnosed with breast cancer, that you help them find out all of their treatment options before they make any decision about what type of surgery they're going to have. There are lots of national organizations that do phenomenal work for breast cancer early detection, prevention, finding the cure. There is no national organization which funds the final stage of breast cancer, which is reconstruction.
Well, now there is right here in New Orleans.
And now there is.